Okay, awesome, perfect. Good evening, everyone. The first item under new business is introductions, and we have our deputy regional director. So go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Fittro, but I go by Mirac. I can't change it on Google Meets because it's attached to my email, but I go by Mirac, M-I-R-A-C. That's my preferred name. I'll do a little bit about myself and then what I hope to accomplish in this role, especially in my in my relationship with SCYD. I'm here in San Francisco. I moved here almost 2 years ago from Atlanta, Georgia, where I served as president of Young Democrats of Georgia and vice chair of their LGBTQ caucus. At that time, I was a legislative aide in the Georgia Senate, a field organizer, and I come from a pretty long background of organizing. For about the last 12 years, I got my start on President Obama's reelection campaign. I really love the Bay Area. Since I moved here, I got to travel around and in the beginning and go around and see, meet some new friends. And I got to go to the Lake Tahoe retreat and meet young Dems from around different regions, which was really wonderful. You know, in this role, I'm really excited to be part of this role. One thing I wanted to do when I came to California was get involved in what I knew as community, which is Young Democrats. And it was a big foundation of my friendships and my community here in San Francisco, the Bay Area, and California as a whole. And so in this role, what I really hope to be able to do is be a resource and an asset to you. Whatever I can do to help you all succeed and reach your goals, whatever it is that you'd like to do, anything that I can be helpful with. I have an open door policy. I'd love to be contacted, texted. I'll put my number in the chat. But I really like to help make things happen. I identify kind of as like a facilitator, helping get everyone from point A to point Z and filling in the middle. I really love to do the good work. And in the South, there was always a bunch of good work to be done and getting into good trouble. And so, you know, here I find it a privilege that I get to focus on the issues I really care about. Because it's not just fighting fascism at your doorstep, but here it's housing and this and that, on transportation, all these things. That is just so far-fetched where I come from. And so, as much as I'm excited to be helpful, I'm also excited to learn from all of you about what you've done, what your goals are, and how you see California and your part of the Bay Area going forward. Otherwise, yeah, I do drag on the side and have fun with my friends, and I serve as an impact officer at the World Economic Forum. And so, you know, I try to stay as busy as possible, but Young Democrats is home to me. And so if anyone has any questions, you know, please feel free to ask. Again, I'll put my number in the chat, and if there's anything I can do to be helpful, to be of assistance, to be a resource, please let me know. Jason and I work really close together. Jason, our regional director. And then I also am the PAC chair for San Francisco Young Dems. So if there's any mobilizations or anything that we can do to be, you know, helpful in getting Young Dems out to support y'all as well, I'm always happy to help plug and get people on the ground. It's what I love to do. So thank you for your time and for letting me come in and introduce myself. And I look forward to getting to know all of you as well. So I hope to come out there sometime in person soon. Thank you.
Awesome. We appreciate you coming to introduce yourself. I know when I originally invited Jason, he said he's going to be in Chicago. I'm like, oh, that's right. The DNC is happening this whole week. So I greatly appreciate
it's happening. He's out there having the time of his life. But we're having the time of our life here. But I'm like, you know what? Go enjoy yourself in Chicago, Jason. I won't bother you.
Yeah, so feel free to stay for the rest of our meeting where we're going to be doing endorsement interviews. We have a whole slate of candidates for local offices here in Solano County, so feel free to stay. If you have something else, feel free to go. We understand.
I'll definitely stay. I look forward to hearing from all the candidates. We just finished our candidate process in San Francisco. Almost, it's about to go in front of membership, but I'm still on the track of being really motivated and listening. So I look forward to hearing about everyone's plans. And so yeah, I'm now in observer mode. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, before we get started, I noticed we have a lot of candidates in our Google Meet tonight. I just wanted to briefly go over a couple of the procedures for tonight. As you know, as you can see, we are recording, and this recording will be sent out to our membership for the endorsement process when it comes up for the endorsement vote, and that will be done, of course, electronically. we will go in the order that endorsement questionnaires were received. Um, Candidates will have 2 minutes for introductory statements, 5 minutes for questions, and another 2 minutes for closing. You are also able to drop in contact information in the chat and things like website or social media. I feel like there's one more other thing. Yes. When if you are not currently introducing yourself, doing a closing statement, or answering questions, we ask that you mute yourself so that it does not interrupt the audio of another candidate. And then lastly, Angelo Velasco, who is the Southern Vice President, he will be keeping the time. And so during your 2 minute introductory, he will put in the chat, you have 1 minute left, and then you have 30 and then 5 seconds. And then he'll do the same thing for your closing. And then during your question and answer time, the time will run for your question and answer time only when you are answering the question. So the time does not run when we are asking the question, even if we have to re-ask the question. So the time for your 5 minutes for answering questions only runs when you are speaking and answering a question. And then Angela, of course, will put in the chat, when there's 2 minutes, 1 minute, 5 seconds, so that it can help you gauge where you are. And then specifically also for the Q&A portion, after each question is answered, we'll put the time in the chat, how much time of your 5 minutes is remaining. And so that will help you determine, how quick you need to answer the next question, or even if you have any time for another question. But with that being said, I wanted to ask just generally from any of the candidates, if there's any questions about the process. Feel free to unmute or put them in the chat. I'd be happy to clarify before we get started. Okay, I do not see anyone jumping to raise their hand, unmute, nor anything in the chat. So the first candidate that we will hear from is Jason Roberts. Jason, are you here? Let me see.
Yep, I'm here.
Perfect. Let me spotlight you really quick.
Oh, first out the gate. This is always fun.
And then your time will start when you're ready.
All right. So for a brief introduction, my name is Jason Roberts. I'm seeking re-election for Vacaville City Council District 5. I first got on in 2020 with support of the local Dems, Northern Solano, and the Central Committee, and then Jacob's helped me out in the past as well. My background is in September, I'll be 18 years in the military, Army, 2 deployments to Afghanistan. Currently serve as military intelligence officer in the California National Guard. My full-time job is I'm a public health emergency manager for Yolo County, where I help hospitals and EMS services write their emergency preparedness plans, medical surge plans, anything they're dealing with emergency response for healthcare services. Since I've been on council, we've done a lot of really good work the last 4 years. We've approved, I think, the most affordable housing in the last 4 years and what's been done like the last 15 years. And that's a huge deal because most of it was senior housing. We also recently passed one of my projects I was trying to get through for the last 3 years is net zero energy, which overall will save the city roughly $26 million over 20 years, which is very important since we're starting to get in deficit spending. And we still have a lot of progress to do. Vacaville's been in the news too many times lately for stuff that isn't necessarily good. And so we need to keep that progress moving forward. And I think with my opponent, at worst case or best case, it'll just stagger progress a little bit. Worst case, it'll take a step backwards. And so that's why I'm here to interview with you all today. And that's it.
You have 30 more seconds.
Oh, no, I'm good. I try to keep it brief.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate that. Let me just remind you, your time will only run for the question and answer portion when you're answering the question. So our first question is, and we'll actually also put this in the chat for you as well. The first question for you is, what steps will you take to ensure that the voices of young people are heard and valued in the political decision-making process?
Big thing is just engaging people where they're at, whether it's the young Democrats groups, engaging them at local events, and trying to figure out the best ways to reach them. As social media changes, demographics within social media change. When it comes to campaigning, figure out where they're the most active currently. And that seems to be like TikTok or Instagram, like short reel type things. But I was just pulling the numbers today, which they've actually changed. So if y'all haven't looked at your recent political data information, it's changed over the last week. So now what they consider the young voters is 18 to 34 in political data. And that makes up over 20%, almost 23% of my district. And so engaging the youth is going to be very important for my city council run. And with those new numbers, 43% of my district is now Dem plus. So people are either registered Democrats and those that also tend to vote democratically or contribute to Democratic campaigns or causes. And so with that many youth, younger voters, and with now the number of Democrats growing in my district, or at least have registered to vote this year, reaching out to that younger demographic, I think will be crucial in from my election this go around.
Awesome. Thank you for that response. Your second question that we have is, how do you plan to attract and retain businesses that provide job opportunities for young professionals?
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways to do that. Whether you have your young entrepreneurs, the Small Business Development Center is a good way to get started, learn how to write business plans and understand how businesses work. And for Vacaville, so my other council members probably think similarly, is not just like quantity of jobs. We need quality jobs to actually develop those young professionals into leaders, like put them in roles of actual responsibility instead of just a cashier or just retail. They need to have opportunities to grow, whether they start off in retail and they move up to like a shift manager, or supervisor, or bringing in the biotech where you can get your foot in the door with a certificate program from Mike Silva. Just developing those pathways so that they have opportunities to progress within our own community. And I think the biotech and then bringing in those smaller mom and pop businesses, whether they're starting out or they inherit a business, but also give them the opportunity to thrive by supporting them with the business improvement districts, where you have current grants to help improve business facades now, so they can apply to help improve businesses and teach them how to apply for those grants, so they can make more use of their time in the positions that they're at. And the key to retain businesses is just showing support. From what I know, businesses like seeing their council members and elected representatives at their businesses, whether it's downtown or other areas of the city. It shows that we're paying attention to not just the big stores that bring in the millions of dollars in sales tax revenue, but also the small ones that provide a service to the community. And they're also part of our community. They usually live here in the town. So making sure they're heard and we see them and figuring out what their exact needs are, because every business is different.
Thank you for that response. Angelo, how much time is remaining? Okay. At this point, I want to open it up and ask if any of the members have any questions for Jason. If not, that's fine. We still have more prepared questions. Okay, I don't see anyone raising their hand, so we'll move to the next question. It's a very long question. What specific policies or initiatives will you implement to increase the availability of affordable housing in our community? And how will you ensure that these solutions are both sustainable and accessible to those most in need?
All right, so affordable housing is always difficult because we either have the land and no developers want to build it, or they say it's too expensive to build for some reason. Affordable housing costs more than regular housing to build. It completely baffles me. But the one thing that we can really do in the city that we've been working on for the last few years, another reason why I'd like to continue serving on the council, is to see inclusionary zoning or inclusionary housing come to fruition in Vacaville. With that, what that means is we're going to be trying to set a policy across the city that any developers that come in, there'll be certain percentages of housing set aside for different income levels. And so that way when they sell them, they're kind of restricted to what income somebody has coming in. So just building like 2,500 square foot, $1 million homes. A starter home might be a good 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. And kind of restricting that. So if they're not going to build it, they're going to chip in to help us build those. At least they will have to build them themselves. And I know developers don't want to do that, but if they don't want to play nice, that's really our only opportunity to try to get that affordable housing for those different income levels in the city.
Okay, thank you. Angelo, how much time is remaining?
It's 13 seconds. As we just typed in the chat.
Do you want to answer another question, or do you want to go to your concluding statement?
It's completely up to you. I'm your guest here, so if you want to ask me questions, ask me questions.
Well, I think for the interest of time, I don't think you'll be able to answer this next question in 13 seconds. Members will most likely be able to reach out to you to get that answered. But we'll move to your closing statements, and just again as a reminder, 2 minutes for your closing statement, and Angela will put in when your time is ticking down. So when you're ready.
Okay. Yeah. I'm really excited you guys are doing this go around. This is my third campaign. So trying to get the youth more involved in Solano County politics and campaigns is, I think, very important, because decisions we're making is literally your guys' future. So it doesn't affect me all that much, but when you go to buy a house in 15 years or however long it is, decisions we're making are going to affect your ability to buy a house in the future, or the availability of housing. And so, yeah, I'm just really excited to be here and be able to speak with you and hear your questions and what you're interested in. Looking forward to your support, because like I said, over 20% of my district is that younger voting demographic, and having other young folks that are interested in politics, such as this group, kind of vouching for you and saying, hey, we've talked to this guy, he's good to go, will hopefully put trust in you and them and me based on your recommendations for it. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what you guys come up with and seeing how you guys work this campaign. All right, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. Feel free to stay for the rest of the candidates, or if you have other things, we totally understand.
Yep, I'll be on listening to everybody. So
awesome. Okay. Our next candidate, I believe, is Pippin, who is a candidate for Vallejo Vallejo mayor. I think I remember I saw her. Let me see.
I'm here.
There she is. Let me pin you for everyone. And it will be the same process. You have a 2 minute for your introductions, 5 minutes for question and answer, and 2 minutes for closing. And your time will start whenever you're ready.
All right, I'm ready. All right, my name is Pippin, and I am a candidate for mayor. I was a council member for the city of Vallejo for 9 years. I came in shortly after we exited bankruptcy, so a similar situation to what we are seeing today, where we have limited resources and many competing priorities. And we had to be, back then, we had to be very focused on our priorities and disciplined with our spending. And by doing that, we were able to go from that situation to a position where we had revenues exceeding budget, surplus reserves. We were paying down our unfunded liabilities. We had full staffing and $1.5 billion in the construction pipeline. Like, so many things were going in the right direction. They weren't perfect. We definitely had our share of challenges, but we were moving in the right direction. And then 2020, we had COVID. Immediately, we had a $12 million budget deficit, and we had to cut services all across the board. And I kept thinking that we were going to get back to our fundamentals and refocus our priorities and be more disciplined with our spending like we had in the past. And I realized in 2021, with the current leadership, that wasn't going to happen. And I made the decision then to run for mayor. I'm ready to get back into work, get us refocused and reprioritized, and not only get us back on track, but take us to the next level. So I am excited to be here tonight. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving to our first question. And just as a reminder, time will only run when you're answering the question. What steps will you take to ensure that the voices of young people are heard and valued in the political decision-making process?
Yeah, so thank you for that question, because youth has been a huge priority, a huge passion for me as long as I've been on council. And I was actually successful in 2019 to get it to be a top tier priority for our council, and also created and filled a permanent full-time position dedicated to youth, so that priority stays in place beyond my time. And I started back in 2017, actually, creating the youth delegate program. So that was taking students from our high schools and in partnership with the school district and sending them as youth delegates to the National League of Cities conferences, and allowing them the opportunity to network with 2,200 kids from all over the country and get to see how different cities were doing different things. One of the cities that was really of interest to the youth delegates from Vallejo at one of the conferences was Camden, where they've actually reduced the voting age for municipal elections to 16. And so I've been fighting to bring that to Vallejo. I think that would be a great way to get the youth engaged earlier and more often. And, you know, the mayor of Tacoma, Washington, Mayor Woodard, said one time at one of the conferences, the youth are not our future. The youth are our right now. And if we don't have them at the table while we're out here trying to build the world for them to live in, to make sure it's the world they want to be in, we are failing. And so I am super excited to continue that work, because that is absolutely the truth.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that response. Moving to our next question. Yeah, you have 3 minutes and 13 seconds remaining. How do you plan to attract and retain businesses that provide job opportunities for young professionals?
Yeah, so I'm a board member for the San Francisco Bay Ferry. And as a member of that organization, we have secured $120 million to go to a zero emission system from state and federal funding. The challenge, though, is that you know, the technology, the industry to support that transition doesn't exist in the Bay Area. So we actually had a study session on my birthday on August 8th to look at what the existing industry looks like in terms of ship repair, ship building, hydrogen fuel technology, all of those kinds of things, and how we can grow that industry here locally, creating more jobs and more opportunities for our residents, so that when we deploy that $120 million, it's being deployed to our local communities. I have been a big champion of the Working Waterfront Coalition, which is a training program creating pathways into maritime industry jobs, like deckhands to welders, ship repair, like the whole gamut, and creating those opportunities for our youth. Currently, it's for 18 and over, but I am really pushing that it goes into our high schools as well, so that we can create those pipelines for our youth. I think that work is just incredibly unique and interesting, and I think that it would really inspire a lot of young adults to get into the maritime industry, or even into, you know, the research and development of the clean tech industry, and really looking at those opportunities locally.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 1 minute and 28. I think you have enough time to answer this question. What is your approach to addressing homelessness, and how will you work with other stakeholders to provide both immediate and long-term solutions?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So, as a council member, I did approve 3 different projects that are one that is completed on Sacramento Street in Vallejo, the Blue Oak Landing, which is 174 units, not units, 75 units, 174 beds, which was full. Like, we opened the application period and we had to close it 5 hours later because the number of applications was so great. So clearly we need more of that. And that was permanent supportive housing. So permanent housing, getting them into a stable housing situation, and then providing the full wraparound services, mental health support, substance abuse counseling, career development, family support, all of those kinds of things, which is really the model of how to do things the best. But it is super expensive. We have another one that's there's 2 on Broadway Street, one that's permanent supportive, one that's a navigation center. So that will be navigating folks into permanent supportive housing solutions. And I also am working with a private property owner that has a mobile home park. I connected them with the county last year. The county has helped transition over 100 individuals just in the last 6 months alone into these mobile home units, providing full wraparound support services. 8 of those individuals have successfully transitioned into independent living, and none of that costs the city any money at all. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, looks like you were just down to the last couple seconds. Now is your closing statement. Again, you have 2 minutes, and Angela will do the same thing as he's been doing. And you can start whenever you're ready.
Okay. So I am super excited to be here. This is the 3rd campaign that I've done. And in 2013, when I ran the first time, the Young Dems were my very favorite organization to work with. The candidate forum they did was just really engaging and exciting. And it was sad when they kind of went away. So having this big group here tonight is just really exciting. I've been seeing the work you guys have been doing over the last several years, and it's just been really exciting to see you guys out there. As I said earlier, youth is definitely absolutely one of my top priorities. When we talk about a safe, vibrant, thriving Vallejo, we can't do that. We can't have that unless our kids are successful and supported and have access to all of the educational opportunities and economic opportunities and have safe environments to live in. So it's incredibly important that we, look at that, and that's one of our top tier priorities, and really make sure that people understand. Like, a lot of times I hear people say, oh, the kids are the school district's responsibility, but the school districts only have our kids 20% of the time. That other 80%, that's our responsibility combined. And so, like I said, I'm just really excited to be here tonight with you guys, and I look forward to the opportunity to work together in the years to come.
Okay, thank you. And I forgot to mention this for Jason, but if you have any contact information or your website you want to drop in the chat, feel free to do so. But thank you so much. We'll move to our next candidate, Alexander Matias. I believe I saw him. I do see him. Alexander, are you here?
Trying to sort out my camera situations. Just bear with me 1 second.
Okay. Alexander, do you mind if we move to the next candidate while you are fixing your technical difficulties?
For sure. Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. Next candidate is Cristina Arriola, but I did not see them in here. So, we'll move to the next candidate, Michael Silva. And I know he's here.
Hey, everyone.
Awesome. Yeah, Michael, give me 1 second. Let me ping you for everyone, and we'll get started. Yeah, so just to review, 2 minutes for intro, 5 minutes for question and answer, 2 minutes for closing, and you've seen how the countdown goes in the chat. And so your time starts when you're ready.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming on out and entertaining our democracy. It's very important. My name is Mike Silva. I'm running for Vacaville City Council, not just for the members, not just for the residents in District 3, but for all of Vacaville. It's been interesting these past 4 years as a city council member, where I've really dedicated a lot of time coming from where there was a lot of protests going on 4 years ago. Majority of our economy was shut down, our schools were shut down, and there was a lot of division within our community. And it's not an easy time to lead, but Vacaville has had the most diverse city council in its history, and I feel that collectively we've been able to pull it together to find some type of normalcy, some type of calmness within our communities, within our own quote unquote circles, and figure out a pathway of how we move forward. These past 4 years, I've had the privilege and honor to working with fellow council members that have not always agreed eye to eye, but we figured out best ways of how we can go about finding common ground to support better jobs. When I go out into my community that I grew up in, that's predominantly low income, subsidized housing. When I talk to families, they appreciate me trying to help them out as adults, but they pretty much remind me that they're fine doing 2-3 jobs. They're fine getting lower pay. They do that to make sure that their kids have a better future. And so as a professor of biotechnology, I am absolutely focused on making sure we have better jobs, and with those better jobs allow us to have better housing. And then ultimately what we all want is just a better quality of life and a safe community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. So now we'll move to question and answer portion. And so this question should look familiar. What steps will you take to ensure that the voices of young people are heard and valued in the political decision-making process?
Yes, it's a great question. The easiest overall answer is you always got to meet people where they're at. So I'm fortunate to have a 14-year-old and an 8-year-old that are very observant. So my oldest son, he was actually born out in Santa Barbara, where I was transferred to UC Santa Barbara at the time, and then living in LA and then coming back. And just driving around, he would notice certain things. Like, hey, Dad, how come all the liquor stores are in our neighborhood? Hey, Dad, how come this place looks kind of, it's nice, but, it's not as nice as this other neighborhood just a couple blocks up above? I'm like, that's a great question, son. Even my 8-year-old earlier this year is like, hey, Dad, how come there's houses up on those hills above us? And I'm like, well, because they got money to build there. And so it's the youth have its own unfiltered, untainted, unique perspective of life and truth. And for me, it absolutely is a guiding voice, and gives me optimism to know and keep me motivated and inspired of how I can be a better father, how to be a better community leader, and how every decision we make on council is with their best interest. And so beyond just listening to my own kids, because that's not where I end it or even really begin it. We found different ways to make sure that youth are empowered and understand the issues that concern them. For example, I bring that up with my son. I became used to it. It wasn't until I actually moved away and got to see different ways of life, different setup of different communities, and came back and like, wow, like all the apartments are here for some reason, and it just starts making you question like how that came to be. So at Markham Elementary School, it's Vacaville's largest Title I school, which is predominantly low-income families that go there. So we start up a community leadership club, And that club was there to focus on understanding what it takes to run a society, the challenges that exist, and reasons behind different disparities that they themselves or their friends may be facing, and not just to talk about it, but what we can actually do about it. So I'm also engaged with Scouts and Girl Scouts. And so anytime they need some type of community service project and they want to do it on public land, me and round up whatever council members we can, and we try to find ways to support them. So one of them was there was a retaining wall that was constantly getting grain graffiti back and forth. And so rather than allowing that going back and forth, we want to reclaim it back for the neighborhood. So it took 11 months, but collectively we all came together. All the youth came out one weekend finally, and we're able to, everybody took turns painting different sections of this wall, 210-foot long retaining wall, to beautify it. We also have the Police Activities League, so we actively physically support them in their different endeavors. There's a pop-up, anything I could do to help support those folks that are in there, particularly the youth. And help them develop their leadership skills and maybe even learn from my mistakes is pretty much what I'm all about. We also started a youth roundtable, so that's another opportunity for city staff to engage and listen to youth who are looking at how to improve their community. So I know I went on a little bit on there, but youth is that's what inspires me. So that's where my passion is.
Thank you so much, Michael. Angelo, how much time is remaining? I have 1:24. I think you can answer this question. How do you plan to attract and retain businesses that provide good job opportunities for young professionals?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, we had Genentech. Genentech pays, that was the first place I ever worked at, and I was like 30-something years old, mid-30s. First place I ever worked at that I didn't have to worry about how I was going to afford to put food on the table for my kids at the end of the month. And that's something that drives me and something that I want to make sure that other folks have access to. So that's why I teach. My whole focus is on workforce development. I say it's, my whole goal is to make sure my students have the skills to pay the bills. And if they can do that, again, that allows for them to be advance their economic, status, to help start building some generational wealth, particularly if they're able to invest in some property. And so I think one key thing that I've been actively involved in is really making sure that we show that we have the workforce that's committed and ready to support their business needs. And beyond that, from a small business perspective, we absolutely want to make sure that we allow a pathway for startups to start building up their businesses and have an opportunity to build some wealth that way.
Thank you so much. I do believe you have less than 30 seconds. So we'll move to your closing statement, and so you have 2 minutes for that, and the time will start when you're ready.
Yeah. So these past 4 years, we've allocated funds out to different projects. It wasn't just like parks, for a place to play. One of the key projects that I was very happy to have at least 4 additional council members support on was the Brown Street project. The Brown Street project in itself has been called De Colores, and there's a community center on there that'll have a commercial kitchen called or named after Matias Montoya. He's a very famous, well-known retired professor from UC Davis, and artist. And so that collectively, that commercial kitchen is really key to being able to allow people to work themselves out of poverty if that's what they wish to do, right? And so by having different live events, by having a park that has a soccer field, a splash pad and whatnot in an underserved community, that's not just a place for just residents of that particular neighborhood. It's an opportunity for people throughout a region to come together, celebrate life, culture, community, and allow for opportunities for economic prosperity. And I think those things, it's those little ways that really help create a robust community and how we support each other's growth and whatever our dreams are. You don't have to be, there's multiple opportunities in this country. I'm very grateful for the second chance that I've had in my life. And it's something that drives me to move forward. One of the challenges I think that we all have to consider when we elect our leaders is to be conscious of egos. I think when people are very egocentric and really just kind of think about themselves or let the politics behind them drive their decisions, that's when we kind of lose sight of the people. So I appreciate you all stepping up and providing this platform and being engaged and stepping up, not just for ourselves, but for others. So thank you.
Thank
And
you again, Mike.
vote for Mike Silva, Vacaville City Council, District 3.
Awesome. Thank you again, Michael. Yeah, feel free to drop in any contact information, social media, website in the chat, and we can get that to our members. Thank you again.
No, thank you, sir.
Okay, we're gonna jump back to Alexander. Are you ready? Awesome.
Ready to go.
Let me pin you for everyone. Yeah, so again, same thing. 2 minutes for your introduction, 5 minutes for question and answer, and 2 minutes for closing. And this is the last time I'm going to say it because I think everyone has heard me say it. And so your 2 minutes starts whenever you're ready.
All right. Apologies in advance for the earlier text. Nafu, thank you. And good evening to everyone. And thank you again for giving me the opportunity to interview this evening. My name is Alex Matias, and I'm a candidate for council member in District 1 here in Vallejo. I entered this race as a husband, as a dad, and as a neighbor. And it is those perspectives that help inform not just my run for council, but the platform that I want to put forth and work with the rest of council over the next 4 years. I currently serve as Vice President of Operations and Engagement for Children Now, a nonprofit state advocacy organization that works day in and day out for kids' equity. I'm running to build a Vallejo that works for all. And because I believe in our collective ability to bring about change, I want to be able to serve as a vehicle and as a bridge to enable that to happen throughout our city. I've had the opportunity to serve on 2 commissions, economic development and code enforcement, where I've served as chairman of both. And it has been through those experiences, in addition to my professional experiences, that I've been able to collaborate with council members, with other commissioners who are also my neighbors, to move work forward that has brought real solutions to challenges that we're experiencing. It is that collaboration and that ability to make incremental progress that makes me hopeful for the future. And I hope to leverage these experiences in a first term as council member here in Vallejo. I look forward to addressing any questions you may have this evening. And I once again thank you for the opportunity to share my views and my platform that will bring about change in the city. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Moving on to our question and answer period. We'll start with the first question, and we'll put it in the chat as well. What steps will you take to ensure that voices of young people are heard and valued in the political decision-making process? And your time will start when you start answering.
Yeah, so I'll be very quick on this one. Over the past, outside of my official capacity as Vice President of Operations for a nonprofit in Oakland, I also worked on a small engagement with a nonprofit called Urban Strategies. And there, I led a fellowship over a 3-year period of youth ages 16 to 24, where we worked on building their life skills. We worked on getting them involved. And we also worked on sort of sharing with them what was out there and how they could make a difference in their community. So that to me is a vehicle that we must always exercise in helping youth sort of figure out what place they want to play in our society. And then there are more formal structures like those of a youth commission. The fellowship that I led, one of the things that they actually worked on was bringing in the youth coordinator that former council member Du alluded to into a session to talk to her about the positives of establishing a formal youth commission in the city of Vallejo. And so I would advocate for formal vehicles like a youth commission, and I would similarly advocate for supporting our nonprofits, those in Vallejo and those supporting Vallejo, to make sure that we are meeting kids and youth where they're at, and we're getting them involved into the political process. And then lastly, that also happens through action, right? So I'm actively having youth support my campaign for council member, and through that process, there's a lot of education and a lot of involvement that they're sort of becoming aware of and becoming a part of the political process.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving on to the second question that we have for you. It will be about homelessness. What is your approach to addressing homelessness, and how will you work with other stakeholders to provide both immediate relief and long-term solutions. And we'll have a member of our membership ask another question after this. So please be concise.
For sure. So on homelessness, I think we have to, as a city, come up with a plan. There's been a lot of projects that have been put forth, each with varying degrees of expenditures and goals associated with them. But if we don't have a vision of where we're headed and what we can realistically do as a city and what service is going to be provided at every step of the process to help someone either get mental health supports, get housing, get a job, or get whatever support they need, then we're not going to be adequately serving our unhoused neighbors. And so I think that process begins with asking them what it is that they need, to, making sure we're pairing them either with county support services or city services, and then staying focused on what is the ecosystem of housing and supports we want to provide for members of that community. And so I'm committed to being a partner in helping that happen. And I think that's how we would systemically address the unhoused situation here in Vallejo.
Okay, thank you. I'll yield to Shreya to ask her question.
Of course. Thank you so much for allowing me to ask my question, and also thank you for being here today, Alexander. So my question really revolves around your idea surrounding youth advocacy. So a lot of times, there are a lot of fellowships that people advertise for youth to get involved in politics, to get engaged, but oftentimes these are just used as publicity or just used for advertisement's sake, because they want to use kids' faces, not really their voices. And so I really want to hear what differentiates you from that and make sure that your fellowships and your work within youth isn't just for a photo op, but really is truly to get them engaged. And so highlighting some key innovative ideas that you've had in the past that can really highlight that idea.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that question. And I think, I share those same concerns that you share about those sorts of fellowships being used for photo op opportunities. And I think what you have to do to make sure that a fellowship like that is successful is you center the people who are actually participating in them. Whatever the experience is that you want that fellowship to have should come directly from the youth. If you take a look at the fellowship that I ran over a 3-year period, most people will tell you that I had in no way, shape, or form any involvement with the fellowship. And the reason for that was because it was the fellows themselves who were driving the programming. It was the fellows themselves who were talking about what issues they wanted to see discussed in their space together. We met every Tuesday from 6 to 8. And so I think it's important anytime you structure a program that you're supportive in nature and that you let them drive the content of what's being done and that you sort of remove yourself from the equation, because at the end of the day, it's not about you, it's about serving them and helping them get to where they need to get to. And so I was thinking about just the earlier interviews and my experience in shepherding that process. And what I will say is similar to what Councilmember Silva said, what I was very intentional about in that fellowship experience was that we were really crafting individual paths for each one of the fellows that were a part of that fellowship. What does that mean? There was someone who wanted to start up a business just doing spoken word. They wanted to make a living out of that. There was someone who wanted to come up with their own coding program. And so rather than have this sort of boilerplate program that we provided with an end goal that was sort of drummed up by me, we made sure that we met with each one of the fellows and we helped them get to where they wanted to get to in their individual journeys. So in supporting future fellowships, I would take that same approach if I'm in a position to do so.
Okay, thank you. Angelo, how much time is remaining? We'll move to your closing statement. And again, you have 2 minutes for that, and your time starts when you're ready.
And I was here ready for like 4 other questions. I should have been shorter. So want to thank you for the opportunity this evening to allow me to share my platform for a better Vallejo. I'm eager to get to work on behalf of all Vallejoans to bring solutions to problems that have been plaguing our community for decades. I hope to use my management experience and my graduate degree in public administration to move forward solutions, whether we're talking about our public safety, our streets, job creation, investing in our youth, which is so critical, to help actually move those challenges forward with solutions that last decades and that are systemic in nature. To learn more about my campaign and to get involved, I would invite you guys to visit Matias for district1.com or to send me an email at info@matiasfordistrict1.com. It's been a real pleasure to be with you this evening, and I hope I get to collaborate you not just in the coming months, but in the coming years to move our city forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, feel free to drop in any information you want to share with us, website, email in the chat. We'll be happy to send that out. Okay, thank you again. We'll move to our next candidate. I still do not see Cristina Arriola. I don't see her yet. We'll move to Dwight Monroe.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
Doing good. Let me just pin you for everyone and we'll get started. Yeah, your 2 minutes for your introduction will start whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for introducing everybody and also making sure that this is a very transparent and open dialogue between everybody. Really appreciate that. My name is Dwight Monroe Jr. I am running for Vallejo Mayor this upcoming November 5th, which is also my birthday. I'm going to be 33. I'm a 9-year resident here in the city of Vallejo. My wife and I recently just had our first child, so technically my baby is from Vallejo, if that gives me any points. We also, we both run different businesses, but I run a small business called Dwight's Mobile Brake Service, LLC. It's on Google. You can find me on Google. Over 200 5-star Google reviews, and just celebrated my 3-year anniversary for the business. Currently, I serve as the vice chair of the Economic Development Commission. I'm also a member of the Vallejo Police Chief Advisory Board, and also in the leadership of 2 major nonprofits here in the city of Vallejo. I am the president of Angels with Heart nonprofit. We currently serve the unhoused community, and also we have many events that offer activities and learning, create learning environments for children and youth. And then second, I'm the vice president at the Vallejo Naval and Historic Museum. I've been serving on that board for about 2 years now, and it's been a great experience and something that I've embraced because I am most likely one of the youngest members ever to be on that board. So I take pride and honor of that, and actually somebody who looks to just, create more dialogue with everybody. So I really appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself here today. Again, I'm Dwight Monroe Jr. Thank you. Have a great day.
Don't go just yet. We still have question and answer in closing.
Oh, I ain't going
So the first question for you, just as a reminder, 5 minutes for your question and answer period. What steps will you take to ensure that the voices of young people are heard and valued in the political decision-making process?
Thank you for your question. So I take pride in actually in leading by example. As a young Democrat, I actually started my public service journey as a young man at College of Marin. I served as an associated student of College of Marin. I served as the state student Senate representative. And also I served as the vice president and vice president and president of Black Student Union at the College of Marin. So I like to make sure that I'm involved early. I've been involved in public service early. My recent efforts have been with the political action chair. I was actually the political action chair for the NAACP. So working with youth members like Masai Davis, the youth president for the NAACP, doing voter registrations, voter drives, checking in with the Vallejo High School, Jesse Bethel, all the different schools in the Vallejo, the community college, Maritime, Toro, I'm just really trying to make sure that we educate and activate the young voters here in the city of Vallejo. So I urgently work with all youth to make sure that they're getting registered to vote even at 16 years old, pre-registration. So every effort I can exercise to make sure that people are being educated and ready to vote when they turn 18. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to the second question. How do you plan to attract and retain businesses that provide job opportunities for young professionals? And just as a reminder, you have a little bit under 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes.
Thank you. Yes, so as an economic development commissioner, I work closely with the economic development director, Director Neiman, and um, if elected mayor, I definitely expect to continuously advocate that my commission, the Economic Development Commission, is bringing in different opportunities and programs via business grants or whatever it may be to um, bring in more youth-related jobs. Younger business owners here in the city. As a young business owner, I've faced some challenges, but I've found the city of Vallejo to be a very pleasant city to create a business in. So I like to just educate people on different steps and really create the right pathway to make sure you're getting your business license, getting your legal paperwork handled, and all those different matters. Thank you.
Thank you. And then as a reminder to the membership, if you have a question, let me know in the chat so I can get your question in before any of the other prepared questions that we may have. But I'm not seeing any. So we'll move to the next question. What is your approach to addressing homelessness, and how will you work with other stakeholders to provide both immediate relief and long-term solutions?
Yes, thank you for your question. So as a police chief advisory board member, once a month I get to sit down with the police chief and his executive staff and kind of discuss the things that's going on with the community. So I get a little bit more insight of how the department will handle this public safety issue, being the unhoused. Um, One of the things I want to make sure that I'm working with the chief of police. We are currently underway looking for a new chief of police. I want to make sure I'm working closely with the chief of police to have a comprehensive safety plan, and also that is very transparent to the public so that people are not blindsided by these different things that are happening so rapidly, but really just trying to make sure that I'm transparent and working with the community very hands-on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Angelo, how much time is remaining for Dwight? Yeah, 30. Okay, but yeah, I think we can do one more question. How will you prioritize spending, and what areas do you believe need more investment or reallocation of resources?
Thank you so much for the question. Yes, prioritizing spending is always a big issue here in the city of Vallejo. Of course, the number one issue that I'm pressing for in my platform this year is public safety. And what I'm telling people is simply safe cities invest in safety. So we really need to make sure that we're investing in safety in all facets. The Vallejo Police Department, of course, is short staffed, which is one of the main things that is plaguing recruitment and retention and things like that. But we really need to make sure that we're focusing in on our safety issues, meaning our public work situation, um, whatever it may be. Obviously, a big concern right now is the sideshows, the sex trafficking that's happening on the Sonoma Boulevard. All sorts of public safety issues are happening, but we are a under-resourced and underfunded city, so we really have to make sure that we using our funds efficiently and making sure that we're improving conditions incrementally. And we can't just keep saying we're pushing for change, we're pushing for change. We got to start pushing for measures and getting stuff to the dais that's actually going to incrementally change the city by improving certain things, and we can see the actual data. Thank you for that question.
Okay, thank you. I do believe we are under 30 seconds, so we're gonna move to your closing statement. Again, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Solano County Young Democrats, for giving me the opportunity to share my platform today. I want to note to you guys that the average age of a resident here in the city of Vallejo is 36 years old. I'm Dwight Monroe Jr. I'm running for Vallejo mayor. I am your everyday Vallejoan. My campaign slogan is boots on the ground because I really do represent the everyday working Vallejoans. The main thing of this message is to make sure that we get in voter education, we get people involved in political awareness, and make sure that everybody is invited to the table. We got a lot of people, registered to vote, but not voting. So we really got to make sure we pushing the issue, get to the polls. Of course, this is an election season, so it just heightens it all. But I think something that the Democratic Party just showed with great leadership is Joe Biden passing the torch down to Kamala Harris. So it's kind of signifying that, the older generation of leaders I'm sorry, it is time. It's time for fresher ideas. It's time for new innovative ways to think. And this is just me being elected as mayor is just one piece of working with a cohesive team that is supposed to be able to overall improve the city of Vallejo. So that is my goal, is to work with a cohesive team and make sure that we all on the same page and looking towards the same goal, which is making the city move forward. I plead to you guys, I humbly ask for your support. My name is Dwight Monroe Jr. again, Vallejo mayor. I come to you guys as a husband, a father, a parent, a commissioner, a nonprofit president, a community member, a public servant. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Dwight. Feel free to drop in any contact information, your social media or website in the chat, and we can get that distributed to our membership. Andrea, Sorce. And I see you're here. Let me pin you for everyone. And your 2 minutes starts when you're ready.
All right. Well, hi, everyone. It's great to be here with you all. My name is Andrea Sorce, and I am a candidate for Vallejo mayor as well. And my entire career has been in public service. I started out after college in K-12 education. I served in the Peace Corps in Central America and managed nonprofit programs. I managed after-school programming as well as economic empowerment programming for refugees and immigrants. Went back to grad school, got my master's in public administration, and now I am a community college educator. I'm an economics professor at Diablo Valley College over in the East Bay, and I get to teach economics with a public policy lens because that's always been the angle that I've been interested in, studying economics and then studying public administration. So I get to teach these issues to my students every day, and I have a belief that government should work for the people. Government should work for the taxpayers, and government should be inclusive in a democracy as we have. It should be inclusive of everyone in a community. And coming to Vallejo, I just fell in love with this community for all the reasons that everyone loves Vallejo, but I wasn't seeing a government that was inclusive and responsive to the community, and frankly wasn't effective at delivering basic public services. So I'd never really had any interest in running for office or being in politics, but it became clear to me slowly that this was the best way to try to push for positive change with my experience. And I have been involved civically in Vallejo now for several years. I was part of the founding of the ACLU Solano County chapter. I've done some volunteering with survivors of violence and with asylum seekers locally. Part of United Dems. I've met some of you through the Central Committee. So it was a slow build for me, and realizing that this was really the best way for me to try to bring positive change to our community. And I'll stop there for now.
Awesome. Thank you. 10 minutes, 10 seconds to spare. So we'll move to your question and answer portion.
Yeah.
Again, that is 5 minutes. And so this should look familiar. The first question: what steps will you take to ensure that the voices of young people are heard and valued in the political decision-making process?
Yeah, this is one that's just incredibly important and incredibly personal to me as an educator, and as an educator that teaches public policy classes and economics classes. I have opportunities to engage my students in issues facing our community. And frankly, I was speaking about this earlier today, actually. A lot of the hope that I derive for our country and our planet and our political process is from my students and from young people. And I think we have a responsibility, both educators and elected officials and people in public service have a responsibility to bring young people into the process as early as possible. And it's both making sure that we're doing that good faith engagement and responding to people's needs, but it's also making sure that folks are educated on what's available to them. So it's things like, you know, I got to know Foster Hicks, who is you all may not know him. He was a teacher at Hogan High, and he used to have his students go to city council meetings and make public comments to get them engaged. I have my students, when we study issues like rent control or minimum wage, I actually have them look up their state legislators and their congressmen and write letters to their policymakers so they can get practice in that activism. And I think that's our responsibility to really connect for young people the issues that are important to them with the very real policy discussions that are happening. So I'm really eager to activate that space and partner with our colleges. I would love to get into the high schools and get a youth leadership council or youth commission going so that we can really bring folks in. I'm really passionate about bringing resources to Vallejo from the county, state, and federal, and I would love to engage young people in those asks to get them engaged with state and federal officials. So I just think there's a ton of opportunity there, and would be looking forward to partnering with you all in that work.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving to your second question, you have a little bit over 3 minutes left for your question and answer portion. How do you plan to attract and retain businesses that provide job opportunities for young professionals?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two pieces there. We have to be proactive about making sure that the community, that Vallejo is creating the climate that will attract and retain businesses, and ensuring that we're open for business, so that the permitting processes and the any process to start up a business in Vallejo is transparent, that we're activating spaces maybe that have stagnated for years, that we're activating some of the buildings downtown that have been derelict, that we're thinking holistically about what we're doing with the waterfront, what we're doing with the fairgrounds, and making sure that when we develop those spaces, we're thinking about how it's going to impact everyone, and we're putting mechanisms in place to really hold developers accountable for creating living wage jobs. I mean, I could go on about this for a while, but I'm really passionate that A, young people should be able to afford to live in the community where they grew up, and B, that we do everything we can to provide people an opportunity to work where they live, so they don't have to waste time and emissions and all these things commuting. So I think we've got to look at some of our broader projects and ensure that who we're bringing in, we invite them in, we send that message that we're open for business, and we put agreements in with teeth that ensure that those jobs are living wage jobs and that they're jobs that are accessible to the folks in our community that need them.
Thank you. Moving to third question. What is your approach to addressing homelessness, and how will you work with other stakeholders to provide both immediate relief and long-term solutions? And you have roughly 2 minutes for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you all got it in the question, short and long-term solutions. We need both in Vallejo because the short term is not working. The quality of life issues, both for the unhoused residents and the neighbors around those encampments, it's getting to a breaking point. People are frustrated. They're through with it. There's fires, there's rats. And what I've been advocating for the past several years, and the city still hasn't put in place, is a safe camping, safe parking zone where we can safely relocate folks in encampments. We can provide dumpsters, services, porta potties, mobile showers, lockers, so people can put their valuables and their medication and go to work. And then the services can come, and we can then deal with the medium and the long-term, steps of the process for those folks. The current way of doing things is just sweeping folks, taking their stuff, and then they just move around Vallejo. It's completely inhumane and it's completely ineffective. So we've got to get that down. And there's other cities that have done it. We can replicate that and figure out the best way. Then we've got to build housing, and we've got to build housing quickly with environmental review, but as quickly as possible, market rate, affordable, everything spread out throughout the city. Like I said, all those development projects, make sure that those include all types of housing, mixed use. And the third piece, we've got to prevent people from becoming homeless. So I'm in favor of things like just cause eviction protections, rental registries, so we can get, deadbeat landlords and corporate landlords, get the treatment of their tenants enforced, and try to get some of those root causes so that people don't become homeless in the first place. And I think that's pretty good timing.
Yes, thank you so much. We'll move now to your closing statement. It's 2 minutes and time starts when you're ready.
Yeah, so I think for the closing, I kind of want to do two messages. The first message is, I think the thing that motivated me to run for office was that Vallejo needs change. The two things that I've heard consistently over the past almost year that I've been running are that, I mean, people love our city. The love of Vallejo, the everything, the grit and the spirit and the community and the people. We love Vallejo so much, but I haven't met a single person that's happy with how the city's run. And they, you know, I hear a lot from people that I talk to, you know, we got to stop doing the same thing and expecting different results. We've got to make changes. We've got to make bold changes, and we have to demand better from our government. And the same kind of cater of special interests have held Vallejo back. We've had a history in Vallejo of outsiders coming in and extracting and profiting off the community, and the community itself largely being excluded. So my candidacy, I think, represents that bold change, that change in breaking that cycle. And the second message I wanted to sort of close with was how excited I am for you all and what you're doing as young Democrats. I was a child of the Bush administration and a young Dem for the Obama election. And I can't even tell you how invigorating. I hope you all have the same experience this year with this election that I did in 2008. And I work with young people every day, and I just feel the frustration. They're not jazzed about the two-party system. They're not jazzed about the toxic politics. And I think if we want the Democratic Party to be a welcoming place for young people, we need to elevate our young people front and center and make sure that the party platform adjusts to reflect your priorities. Because I think people were getting into it earlier. We've got to pass the torch, and we've got to mold this party into something that people can really be proud to be a part of. And I think you all are on the front lines for that. And I'm really excited to work with you all to make it a reality and to expand that work even more.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Feel free to drop any website, contact information, social media in the chat. We'd be happy to send that out. Okay, Councilmember Arriola, I don't believe you're
I
here.
apologize to everybody and holding up the time here. I'm like using my mouse anyway. All right, I'm done. Let's get to it.
I don't believe you were here when we were introducing it, so I'll just do a brief overview. You'll have 2 minutes for your introduction. You'll have 5 minutes for question and answer, and during that 5-minute question and answer period, only during when you're responding does the time run, not when we're asking the question. And then lastly, your 2-minute closing, and of course it'll be the same like other candidates that you've been watching. So when you're ready with your introductory statement, feel free to start.
Oh, thank you, Royal. I'm Cristina Arriola. I am hoping to get reelected to City Council District 6 for the upcoming election. I have a lot of work to do. I am born and raised here in Vallejo. I went to school here, and I'm very proud to represent District 6, the neighborhood, the area that I grew up in. You know, my father worked hard at Mare Island, and both my family members, my mother and father, are buried here in Vallejo. So I want to continue bringing uplifting support to my community and those disenfranchised members of our community, members of the BIPOC and LGBTQIA+, all of that. I can do that by continuing the work that I have been doing for the past 4 years by reaching out to our community members with town halls, boots on the ground, meeting people in the neighborhoods, addressing their issues, answering the phones, answering the text messages and emails. And I'm there in a heartbeat. And my work is not done. I have a lot of work to do yet. So I'm ready to roll my sleeves back up and get back to work.
Thank you, Councilmember Arriola, and yes, thank you for trying to figure out this technical difficulty problem, and we're glad that you were able to make it. We'll move now to your 5-minute question and answer portion. And so I will read the question, but I'll also put it in the chat for your reference. What steps will you take to ensure that the voices of young people are heard and valued in the political decision-making process?
Yes. That's a struggle, I think, that throughout America is engaging our young folks. I'm very concerned about Project 2025 and the young folks that will be immediately impacted by that ridiculous 1,000 page, document that will strip a lot of people from their rights. And I'm talking specifically about women, young women, and the LGBTQIA plus community, and what that will mean to them, and what that will mean to young women's reproductive rights. So we constantly need to be engaged with our school system and show them the opportunities that they can present. They're our future. Why aren't we nurturing that? As one of the other candidates mentioned earlier, it's time for the old folks to move along. Well, I am probably, I'm going to put it out there, I am the oldest candidate running this reelection. And I don't feel like it. I can go out there with the best of you. So we need to get back into the schools, get our civics and government classes back up on par, and make that important. When I was in high school, in my government class, I played Bella Abzug, a Democrat from New York. I didn't know anything coming from California what Bella Abzug was all about with the big hat and all of that. But we had to reenact Senate debates. And I don't know if we're doing that, but I would like to see young folks come into city council and work with one-on-one with a council member, and work as an aide to get their credits and maybe even a stipend, so that they're going to get engaged and understand what it's really like to be on city council, what the calendar is like, what these meetings are about, and what the agendas and all the projects that Vallejo's learning. I think really we need to insert them into our city government for whatever reason. And we have programs like that with we just had a graduation ceremony for those folks. And we really need, I would like to have a young person, 9th grade, 10th grade, come in and work maybe 3 or 4 months out of the year to get their credits and learn more what it's like to run city government.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to the second question, and that is about homelessness. And what is your approach to addressing homelessness, and how will you work with other stakeholders to provide both immediate relief and long-term solutions? And just as a reminder, you have about 2 minutes left for your question and answer period.
Right. So it's a very controversial question, and I'll try to make it short and sweet. We've waited far too long to get a designated area for RVs and camping, to keep them in a safe place so that they're not on the street and in an enclosed area that's safe, clean, resources, and all of that. I think if we spend our money, what limited money we do have, if we use our money wisely to nip that in the bud now, rather than spending more money to having these camp cleanups and public works and recology come in on a weekly basis to do these sweeps throughout town. If we can concentrate it, that would be best. Number one, I have been advocating to city staff to please get rid of these predatory motels in Vallejo that are a cesspool of crime. and turn those motels into housing, because we're not getting any tax income from transient occupancy tax revenue from those motels. So why can't we use some of those motels to turn that into temporary housing? The infrastructure is there. We can work on that, getting those families with children, women of domestic violence, disabled, and our senior citizens into those motels to have a shelter and safe, clean home. Meanwhile, our county needs to step up and come in and help us, our church groups and our community volunteers. We need to all do this together.
Thank you,
Can't be the city
Cristina.
of Vallejo.
Thank you. We'll move now to your 2-minute closing, and your time will start when you're ready.
Thank you, Roel. Well, again, I reiterate, I would be honored to have your endorsement, but if not, I'm going to continue my fight and battle for the community of Vallejo. I have a very challenging District 6 community that has a lot of issues, and they don't necessarily follow politics, Vallejo news, and any of that. I'm their voice, and I do my best by going out there and meeting and greeting and working with them. And I really believe that the work that I've started already in 2021, I have a lot to do yet, not much. I have new goals, and I'm ready to tackle those new goals. And I believe in my heart that there's a very teeny tiny light at the end of the tunnel. If you squint your eyes, it's going to be brighter. We're going to get a new police chief. We've already got a new city manager. We're going to have a new council and a new mayor. What's not to love? I'm looking forward to it. 2025. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Arriola. Feel free to drop in your email, your website, your social media so that we can get in contact with you and we'll share it with the members. Okay, moving to our next candidate on the list, and I want to thank everyone for waiting. I know it's already 8:30, but again, thank you everyone for waiting. Our next candidate is Audra Orr. I believe I saw her. Let me check. Yes, she is in the room. Audra, are you here?
Yes.
Perfect. Let me pin you for everyone, and then we'll get started. Okay. So your 2-minute introduction statement, your time starts whenever you're ready.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Audra Orr, and I'm running for Vacaville Unified School District Area 4 Trustee. I was born and raised in small town Kentucky in a blue collar family, and I'm the first in my family to go to college, so education is important to me. I had a grandfather who didn't go to school a day in his life because he was sent to work at the age of 7 to support his family. I went to public school all 12 years and then to state university because I knew that education was my path to a successful future. I've always been drawn to careers in service, so I became an Air Force officer right after I got my bachelor's degree. I retired from the Air Force Reserves as a lieutenant colonel. I also retired with over 20 years of law enforcement between Vacaville Police Department and California Department of Justice. In between active duty Air Force and Vacaville Police Department, I was a paraprofessional in Kentucky for a year. Now, when I'm elected, my wife makes me say when, my 4 priorities will be to increase community and parent involvement in the schools, which works hand in hand with my second priority of better preparing our high school students for life after graduation by increasing our CTE options, especially in the traditional trades areas like welding. Third, I'll work to improve the safety and mental health environment of our classrooms. Fourth, I will also work on recruitment and retention of quality staff. Now, what do I bring to the table? The diversity of my experience. Through the various jobs and positions I've held, I've done a lot of different things like working with multi-million-dollar budgets. I've been on a union board. I've worked with numerous community groups as a volunteer. I have a master's and I have lots of experience in leadership, policy development, adult instruction and curriculum development, team building, and creative problem solving. I'm excited about this opportunity to give back to my community, and I hope to have your support in doing so.
Thank you so much, Audra. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. We'll move
Thank
to your question and answer portion. Again, that's 5 minutes. And we'll start with your first question. What steps will you take to ensure that the voices of young people are heard and valued in the political decision-making process?
Well, I think that comes from a few different directions. The first one has to do with the education of our youth, of course. In high school, the requirement is a half a year of civics. That's not a whole lot, in my opinion. I think we need more than that. So if we're going to have a half year, that needs to be a really good half year. With my kids, my youngest daughter at her Waldorf school in 8th grade, they had a civics block that was taught by one of the parents who happened to be a legislative attorney. And basically she gave them a college level constitutional law class. And by the time she got done, they'd had civics, civil rights, and advocacy class. And I went in to help with the portion on marriage equality, and I was blown away. These 12 and 13-year-olds were so excited about the law, and they knew more about our government than I'd say 80% of our voting adults. It was incredible. They were excited, and they all wanted to be attorneys. I was just amazed. So I think we need a curriculum that bring some of that in for our high school students. They need to be excited and they need to understand. So what I'll do as a board member is to ensure that our curriculum is high quality, not the stuff that I got as a high school student. Some of what we can do is, we had an amazing lady here in Solano County who recently moved away, Alice Friedman. She worked with the League of Women Voters to bring in, to develop an incredible program that worked with our city councils to involve high school students and to get them involved in civics and to teach them civics. And I'd like to see that really robust within our high schools. To help our students and our young people get their voices heard, we need to work with the people of our age groups to make sure that they're not pushing our youth down. When I hear our youth speak, I need to make sure that the people of my peer group aren't pushing them away. No, we need to be bringing them up. Like just tonight on Solano Pride Center, our board of directors meeting, we just welcomed an 18-year-old to our board of directors. That person's important, and that person needs to be heard just as much as us 50-something-year-olds on the board, because they have great ideas and they're innovative. I work to ensure that we get as many young people registered to vote as possible. At the Pride events, I make sure that we have someone that's registering young voters. In the military, I made sure that our young airmen were sitting in positions of responsibility and that they have the resources that they need to be successful. So it's a matter of coming at it from all directions, making sure that our young people know that they're important and that their voices are important and that we're listening.
Thank you, Audra. Angelo, how much time does a little bit? We got this. We'll move to your second question. How will you plan to recruit, hire, and retain the necessary staff so that the education of students are not negatively impacted? And just thinking about this question in the frame of our national teacher shortage here in the United States.
That one's actually a really simple one. Working with our different unions, working with HR, looking at other school districts that are having some success, benchmarking off of others, listening to our staff, What brings you here? What would keep you here? How can we create an environment that you want to stay in? Competitive pay and benefits. Just trying to be innovative and finding those innovative programs that will keep people. Creating a working group, that kind of stuff.
Councilmember Arriola, feel free to send that to us and we'll send it out to everyone. Okay, we have 1 minute and 12 seconds remaining for your question and answer portion. Let's move to this next question. How will you prioritize spending, and what areas do you believe need more investment or reallocation of resources in Vacaville Unified?
On some of it, we don't really have a choice in how some of the money is spent because those are mandated by law or by where the money comes from and what it has to be spent on. Prioritizing spending, first priority is what goes toward teaching the classroom, the students, the education programs. That comes first. We also have to, the teachers and the staff have to be paid. The things that come down lower on the priorities are things like new lawnmowers, those types of things, new vans. If we can fix things that can run another year, then we do that. The upper administration salaries and things like that, creating new administrative positions, those can wait. But the money needs to go into the educational programs first.
Thank you. Angela, how much time do we have? 20 seconds? Okay, we'll move to your closing statement. And just as a reminder, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Okay. Jason mentioned first thing that Vacaville's been in the news for things lately that haven't necessarily been good. I have to admit that I've been party to highlighting some of those issues. I've never had a problem speaking up when I feel that something's wrong. And I kind of did that when the mayor refused to fly the pride flag in Vacaville last year. I did some press interviews and organized people from various groups to work together and speak up and create some positive change. As a result, I ended up on the board of the Solano Pride Center, where I hope to help create some more positive change in our community. And that kind of led me into partially doing this as well, is that after retiring from my other 2 jobs and being retired for a bit and volunteering here, there, and a couple of other places, I really felt like my volunteerism and my public sector wasn't quite done yet, that there was more I needed to do. And being on the school board just feels like the right place for me to be, where I can help create change and do more for our youth. And in talking with others, I felt like this was what I needed to do. So that's what drew me to running for the board. And I hope that I have your support. And I hope you guys didn't have too much trouble understanding me today. I had a little bit of an accident last week hiking and smashed my face on a rock. So I'm having a little bit of mouth issues here. So thank you very much for listening and for the opportunity tonight to speak to everyone and to listen to everyone. I wish everybody the greatest on their campaigns.
Thank you so much, Audra, and hope, wishing you a speedy recovery on your injury.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to our next candidate, Joseph Martinez. Let me spotlight you for everyone. Give me 1 second. Okay, and you know how it is. Your time starts whenever you're ready.
Joe Biden's on right now in the DNC, so I'm inspired because the other Joe's on TV. But my name is Joe Martinez, running for Fairfield City Council, District 4. Born and raised in Fairfield, 100% made in Fairfield. Went to David Weir, Sullivan, Fairfield High. Then even just stayed local, went to UC Davis. Graduated with a political science public service degree. Go Aggies. For the past 14 years, I've been a deputy probation officer for the Solano County. One of our main goals and accomplishments that we've done was the Center for Positive Change, where it was a one-stop shop for offenders that have been realigned with the AB 109 funding. So those who were in the prison system came and we released them. And we had mental health, we had substance abuse, job development, cognitive behavioral therapy, evidence-based practices, all in one place to help our fellow brothers and sisters in our community. I'm here today. I just want to thank all of you for coming and gathering together. And this is where it all starts, is us coming together, chopping up new ideas, coming up with platforms, and just breaking bread with each other. So a couple of things that I've done here in the community was the City of Fairfield Youth Commission. And I know some of you guys Youth Commission again. Started at 16 years old, vice chairperson of the Fairfield City Youth Commission. And we did such things as the skate park, the Teen Dance Light Club, and just got more involved with city council meetings. I was also part of the Matt Garcia Foundation, board member from 2014 to 2018. Actually, the first, if you really look at Fairfield's history, I was actually the first candidate to run on strictly a youth platform. So I know there was a Gary Walker back in the 80s, but he didn't run on a city youth platform. And I ran in 2005, straight out of college. I didn't know what I was doing. And just looking back at it now.
Thank you, Joe.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
We'll move now to your question and answer. And your first question should look familiar. What steps will you take to ensure that the voices of young people are heard and valued in the political decision-making process? And again, your time will only run when you're speaking and answering the question.
All right. I hope there's okay. Let me time a stopper for myself then so I can get some more questions. But how I help with the youth is this is one of the main reasons why I am running for city council in Fairfield and just being a representative for the Democratic Party here in Solano County. Is we've got to show our youth that don't be afraid, and that we are as knowledgeable and has the much energy and has the experience and skills to be up in the levels of city council, state, federal, what have you. Like I was saying before, ran 2005. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just wanted to show that we had bold action. 2 years later, Matt Garcia came and he ran and strictly on the youth too, and pushed and gave a huge momentum for youth to come surprise Fairfield and to be great motivation for Fairfield. Secondly was Solano. I was one of the founding members of the Kiwanis Club. Again, stepping up with the present generation, the elder generation, and came together and saying, hey, we want to come too and be side by side with you, have new innovation, new faces to come and do community services with today's generation. That's one of the main factors in my campaign. Is I want to not try to take away any of the current leaders. I want to gather new energy, new innovation with the current leaders and try to solve the problems that we have here in Fairfield and in Solano County. Also, I'll cut myself right there.
Okay, thank you. Angelo, how much time is left? 3.5 minutes. At this point, I'm going to ask if any members have any questions. Annalyn, I'm going to apologize. You cannot ask a question. Any other members besides Annalyn who might have a question for our candidate, feel free to let me know in the chat, and I'll make sure to stop at our next question for your question. But we'll move to the second question, as I'm not seeing anyone jumping to ask. How do you plan to attract and retain businesses that provide job opportunities for young professionals?
Just with Michael Silva, he's a huge advocate with the youth and education. We should pipeline exactly with Solano College, with UC Davis, some of the private schools that are here in Solano County, and we've got to streamline some of the education process. I know that Solano College some of it will be 4-year college degrees, and I think we need to have a combination, a collaboration with businesses, Genentech, Anheuser-Busch. We've got to push these businesses that our future is the economy. We're brick and mortar businesses are closing down, and we just people are new energy, and other populations are going to other cities, San Francisco and Walnut Creek. We've got to pull it back together and show that our youth is a huge asset to our city, is the asset. If we look at the economy, 25% of the city revenue in Fairfield is from the youth. So we've got to get into the social medias. We got to get into the Instagrams, the Facebooks, the TikToks, the Crime Stoppers. We've got to get in there and show a synergy creation of a brand new Fairfield that is willing to open up to everyone, to be inclusive with everyone that's part of our community, especially the youth.
Okay, thank you. And I got a message from one of our members. I'll yield to Trevor to ask his question. And you have 2 minutes roughly remaining in your question and answer portion.
Hi, everyone. It's Trevor. Sorry, I'm at the gym right now. But I want to ask a question. So I'm curious as to how you're hoping to increase voter engagement amongst the demographic that makes up young Dems in Solano County.
What we want to do is we, again, want to be not afraid to speak out. I know there's silent majorities out there, and I think I am one that can be a cheerleader. I think a lot of the city council people in Fairfield, or the leadership that we have, maybe not to say not reserved, but not to be afraid and be a human and laugh and crack jokes. And I think that and to be on social media mediums, I think a lot with crime. I think we need to come out into those more social media mediums and say, hey, city council's watching. So hopefully that brings up other people to come out and say other things too on social media and in any other mediums that come out, whether it be newspaper, computer, internet. And I think for the youth, especially, what I want to try to do is for Democrats is to say, hey, we are the party of change. We are the party of bold change, and that we want to create a synergy, and it's okay to come out and speak your mind. And I think that's, as long as we get more of that momentum going, I think that's where we can push for youth to be to register as Democrats.
Okay, thank you. Any other members have questions for the candidate? Seeing none, you have 46 seconds. I think I want to pose this question to you. How will you prioritize spending, and what areas do you believe need more investment or reallocation of resources within the city of Fairfield?
So with the city of Fairfield, especially with District 4, talking to my constituents, so it's really big right now with the wildfires. I mean, we're 1 minute away from being a paradise, God bless them all. 1 minute away from being a Chico. We were 2 Fridays ago, it was the Blue Fire right next to Lagoon Valley. And so my prioritization, especially as a representative for District 4, is wildfires. And we've got to advocate for our firefighters. We've got to advocate for preventative policies in preventing wildfires and not being reactive with it. Such things as putting more funding towards summertime and less on the wintertime. I think if you guys are Fairfield residents, we got goats out there that are chomping away at the grass. I think that's a great way of trying to be preventative with the fire policies. Huge issue.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
You have 2 minutes for your closing. Feel free to kind of end off your question and then go into your closing. But
And
2 minutes.
Okay. So yes, we want to put more funding towards the fire. I mean, I know we've got Parks and Rec, we've got police, we've got business attractions, but if there's one fire that takes us away, we will have none of the rest of that. So that's why fire, especially with District 4, is important to me. Moving on to my ending, I just want to thank you all. Thank you all well. Thank you, Solano County Young Democrats, for putting this on. This is something great. This is where it all starts. And just one thing that I dislike about you guys is that I'm no longer I can no longer be a Young Democrat, and it makes me sad that if you could have raised the level a little bit higher. But I was part of the original Young Dems. I don't think we're Solano County, but we were the Young Democrats here. Shout out to Glenn Lovell, Joe Summers. We were all part of the Young Democrats. So I really love you guys for bringing this back and bringing it wider and bigger up for Solano County. And so what I want to say in ending, I know I got 1 minute there, is that if not us, who? If not now, then when? And as Solano County Young Democrats, this is your guys' time. And like I said before, we've got brick and mortars closing, where probability of wildfires are getting higher and higher. City infrastructure with the taxes. There's no way we can arrest ourselves away from homelessness or pay for city infrastructure if we don't have enough city revenue. And so that's why I'm here running for city council. I want to gather new innovation, new faces, new talents to come together, step up to the plate with today's leaders and expand city revenues, expand city services. And I hope that you guys will join me November 5. Vote Joe Martinez, November 5, Tuesday, 2024. And vote Kamala Harris.
Thank you, Joe. Perfect timing. Yes, I want to thank you again for, taking the time to answer the questions. I do believe if we do not have the other candidate, we have one more individual. So Tonia, if you're still here, we'd love to interview you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, so your introductory statement is 2 minutes. We'll start when you are ready.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Dr. Tonia Lediju. I'm honored to come before you as a Vallejo City Council District 3 candidate. I currently am unopposed, and I am driven by a deep commitment to serving and transforming our local government systems. For over 3 decades, I've dedicated my career to optimizing the performance of complex state and local government organizations. My experience spans from managing and auditing billions of dollars in federal, state, and local funds to leading teams up to 300 individuals through challenging times. As the CEO of the Housing Authority in San Francisco, I've had the privilege of advocating for and serving over 18,000 under-income households in marginalized communities, successfully negotiating with labor unions, and managing a substantial capital project fund. My background in auditing with organizations such as the California Employment and Development Department and the California Highway Patrol, combined with my education achievements, a PhD in organizational systems, a master's in leadership, and a bachelor's in business administration, has uniquely prepared me to tackle the complexities of the city of Vallejo so that we can be a place where all have the opportunity to thrive. I believe that my extensive experience, combined with the relentless drive for equity and justice, inclusion, and diversity, positions me as the most qualified candidate to run for office. My dedication to creating innovative, humanistic public policies, and my track record of leading through difficult times speak to my readiness to serve and make a meaningful impact.
Thank you so much, Tonia. We will now move into our question and answer portion. And so we'll start with your first question. And just as a reminder, your time will only run when you're answering the question. So your first question, what steps will you take to ensure that the voices of young people are heard and valued in the political decision-making process?
Sure. So I've always worked with the youth. Even as a mother, I've worked with the youth, and I've held and had opportunities to just talk about current events and really have impact in the lives of young people when my own children were growing up. But even in my professional career, I have started internships. I have created entry-level positions. I have worked with youth who actually are in junior high and high school, as well as in college. And every year I ensure that I employ at least 2 to 3 young people in my organization, whether I was the city auditor or currently as the housing CEO. And also, as I have been working on Cassandra James' campaign, we created a forum with MIT, which was the first time that they've had a candidate forum. And I worked with the students and their instructors to create that forum because I thought it was so crucial that we would understand what their concerns were. I'm continuing to do that type of work even with my own campaign, as well as working with a local school around establishing a human rights commission for youth. And so the reality is, for me, without the voices of young people, it's impossible to continue to build humanistic policy. It's impossible to continue to build our government without the young people's voices.
Thank you. We'll move to your second question. What is your approach to addressing homelessness, and how will you work with other stakeholders to provide both immediate relief and long-term solutions? And just as a reminder, you have roughly a little bit under 3.5 minutes for your question and answer portion.
Okay, thank you. So as it relates to working with the unhoused, what I'd like to do is determine what land we have available to set up safe parking, to set up bringing in the needed dumpsters and services while individuals are navigating through next steps, and how we can move people into shelter. And I believe that it is possible. I've seen it across the nation where tiny homes are erected, different types of facilities are developed, as well as the fact that when we talk about housing housing individuals, we need to ensure that we have eviction protections. We need to ensure that we have renter protections. We need to understand how can we even have guaranteed income, because sometimes people are one paycheck away from losing their shelter. And it is a known fact, the longer individuals and families are unhoused, it becomes more and more difficult to rehouse. And so as a government that is rich in resources, rather than coming along and shoving everyone inhumanely off property, we need to determine how best from us, not just the city of Vallejo, but how do we work as 9 Bay Area counties in doing this work and marshaling our resources? As you know, Measure M for BAFA has been pulled. So there were $2 to $3 billion that everyone was expecting to be able to use for affordable housing. We as a 9 Bay Area county, we have enough resources where we can come together with our state government and with our federal government with advocation from our elected officials about bringing in the needed dollars to do this work.
Thank you. Angelo, how much time is left? About 1.5 minutes. Okay, we'll move to the next question. How will you prioritize spending in the city of Vallejo, and what areas do you believe need more investment or reallocation of resources?
Sure. So I think this is a three-prong question, if you will, because first of all, we have to be a fiscal city, fiscally sound in order to do the things that we must do. And we really need to allocate dollars to safety. We need to allocate dollars around housing, affordable housing, all types of different types of housing for unsheltered, for families at different AMIs and individuals at different AMIs, with supportive services so individuals can get up on their feet and keep moving along, and having a housing ladder to continuously move us forward in a place where we are thriving as a community. Next, we need to work on how do we bring in industry? How do we bring in employers and businesses, whether they are young people creating new businesses, whether they're established other businesses that we're bringing in from other places and attracting them here, so that we have livable wage jobs right here in our community. And so we need to spend some dollars on workforce development just as well. And so again, to do all of this, we do need to really understand what is our budget and how much do we have to spend, because we have been balancing $7 million on vacant positions.
Thank you, Tonia. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. We will now move to your closing. And so again, you have 2 minutes, and your time will start when you're ready.
Okay. So in closing, let me reiterate why I'm asking for your support in this election. My vision for our community is clear. I aim to build a safer and more equitable environment where every neighborhood thrives. My plan includes ensuring that our police force is accountable and community-led, creating living wage jobs and expanding housing opportunities. And I'm committed to a government that is transparent, fiscally sound, and deeply engaged with its residents. Vallejo faces a complex array of challenges, including public safety, homelessness, economic development, and youth programs. Addressing these issues requires a holistic, systems-oriented approach. By fostering unity between city officials and the community, we can implement effective community-led solutions. Youth involvement is critical for our future, and I'm dedicated to engaging young people in the democratic process. My efforts to organize youth-led candidate forums and voter registration events demonstrate my commitment to inspiring the next generation of civic leaders. I'm committed to restoring the city's youth commission that was cut due to budget constraints. I believe in the power of our young people, and I'm certain that you and other young people must be heard and have a seat where policy is shaping our communities. Additionally, I have spent many years developing internship programs and different types of programs that is inclusive of our young people, because I believe in the power, I believe in the knowledge, I believe in the creativity that comes from our young people. Thank you for your time and considerations, and I'm eager to bring my experience, passion, and dedication to this office, and I humbly ask you for your support to help us build a stronger, more inclusive community together.
Thank you, Tonia. Thank you for, thank you to all our candidates for, taking the time to come out and answer our endorsement questions. I do believe I saw our other candidate hop in. I know it's late, but we're doing the work that's very vital to our democracy and to our community. So we'll have Councilmember Paul be our last candidate for the evening. I do believe he is here. Yes, he is. Councilmember Paul, how are you?
Hi, Jacob, and the Democratic Board. Just want to say thank you, everybody, for this opportunity. My sincere apologies. I was driving today. It's Raksha Bandhan, just Indian holiday, where the sisters tie a band on their brother's hands for love, and the brothers told them to protect them. And I had all my cousins over, and they said, take us in the RV to the beach. So it's a sister's day, and I was driving, and it was on Do Not Disturb. So my apologies, all my calendar invites, a few other things kind of got dropped. So for that, my sincere apologies to you guys. So Jacob, I'm here. Would you like me to do a quick intro, or how would you like me to start off?
Yeah, no worries. I'll just do a brief overview of the process. I don't think you heard it, but you have 2 minutes for your introductory statement. You have 5 minutes for your question and answer portion. And during that question and answer portion, the time will only run when you're answering the question, not when we're asking the question. And then you'll have a 2-minute closing statement. And so your 2-minute introductory will start whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Amit Kal. I have lived in Suisun City since I was 7 years old, and just want to thank the opportunity for being appointed to the City Council by my colleagues approximately a year and a half ago. My campaign statement is pretty simple, which is A, to protect Traverse Air Force Base. 2 is to continue to create economic development in City of Suisun City. And 3rd is public safety, like everybody else. And actually, I would say add 4th is the goal that I have is to get our senior center back up and our Harbor Theater, which I'm working on public-private partnerships to make happen. So that's my introduction.
Thank you. Very, very concise. I appreciate it. We'll move to your 5-minute question and answer period. We'll start with your first question. I'm also putting the questions in the chat for your reference. What steps will you take to ensure that the voices of young people are heard and valued in the political decision-making process?
Sure. This isn't, I always learn from other people, and this is an item that I learned from Rochelle Sherlock. I was a young person who was running political campaigns at that time, and I heard her speak from the senior coalition. She said, yes, the youth are our future, but seniors are our present. I've made these comments several times while being on the council, is that, you know, how do things impact our youth that are going to be our future, our seniors are present. So that's kind of the fundamental that I look at where it goes to having youth. I've advocated to have the internship program, which we started at the Solano chapter in Apapa for our interns. I will admit initially, because of the name, we only had API students. As we grew our board, we diversified that to get all youths involved. And actually, as I mentioned at the ceremony, was young leaders, because the youth have much of voice as anybody else in our communities. I think that's why getting people appointed to Parks and Rec Commission, committees, Planning Commission, encouraging you to run, listening to their viewpoints. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to your second question. It's about housing affordability. What specific policies or initiatives will you implement to increase the availability of affordable housing in Suisun City and the broad Solano County? And how will you ensure that those solutions are both sustainable and accessible to those most in need? And you have roughly 3 minutes 47 seconds.
Sure. So in Suisun City, our RENA numbers are actually really good. We have quite a few affordable housing units in Suisun. To the work from the previous council that was done and continue to do, we don't look at, you know, I would say for myself, I don't look at affordable housing as a stigma that, hey, we don't need this in our community. I believe if it makes sense, it should definitely be there. I think at a regional approach, the market's also going to demand a bit of that information as well, right? Is there a need for it? Is there a want for it? Definitely right now. The second thing is we also be creative. If there's lack of space, how do we streamline ADU units, right? Can we get ADU units where people can rent a 1-bedroom, right? What I'm telling, you know, friends and family now is it's really tough. And I know we have a realtor, Pippin, in the room, but it's really tough to start, you know, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house now just because of price point. And it's almost like pivoting a bit and saying, hey, is there an ADU that I can start off with? You know, from there, go to the 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. So that's where I've kind of focused on streamlining the ADU units, encouraging people to build on those to get more housing, you know, inventory in the area.
Okay, thank you. Angelo, how much time is left? You have about 2.5 more minutes. We'll move to your next question. How will you prioritize spending, and what areas do you believe need more investment or reallocation of resources?
Sure. This is my first time being on the council. Like anything else, we have to pivot, right? Historically, our fire department wasn't well taken care of, so our previous council spent the money and resource on the fire department. This past year during negotiations, I had just some tough conversations with our firefighters, which was like, hey, look, you guys have the needs that you need. I know we could always do more, but at this time, we've got to make the PD whole because, you know, we had people leaving the PD left and right for small city. When you have 4 to 6 people in back in other cities, that's where we have to look at spending. So first, I would say is public safety. Then second, I said this to our labor council, you know, the interview is, I believe the line level staff person is just as valuable as our first responders. The reason being is if our city isn't taken care of by public works or things of that nature, businesses will not want to come into the city, which hinders economic development, which hinders funding for all of our city programs. So that's what I would do. Public safety, our other colleagues in public works, and then really putting money in economic development.
Okay, thank you. Angelo, how much time is left? About 1:19. Okay, yeah, we'll do this question. This is about business retention and retaining more businesses. How do you plan to attract and retain businesses that provide job opportunities for young professionals?
Sure, absolutely. So I will say in Suisun, we have a lot of retail space left. Like other companies, people are moving into industrial. So I have actually tried to recruit IT companies to come to Suisun and actually have an office here to have, you know, a hub of technology platform, research of that nature. But the reason behind that is if we have resources here, right, rather than Palo Alto, our youth don't need to leave the city. You guys can invest in your town, spend more time in here. So then you guys have the time to be on planning commission, boards of that nature. So that's what I've kind of already done and I will continue to do.
Okay, thank you. Angelo, I believe he has less than 30 seconds, so we'll move straight to 42 seconds. We'll move straight to your closing statement. So you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you to the Young Dems, the work that you guys do from inception. I would say that the Young Dems are relevant. Look at all the electeds that are here. Back to again, I've always believed in the power of the youth. That's how I started off. I wish we had this avenue where we had the internships for APAPA or NAACP to get people involved in politics. So keep up the great work that this organization is doing. But on top of that, I'm just committed to, protecting Traverse Air Force Base, right? Our economic development, public safety, and two things is, getting our senior center back open and our Harbor Theater.
Okay. Is that end of your
That's it.
closing
Yes,
statement?
that's it.
Awesome.
I'm
Awesome.
short and quick, Jacob.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to thank all of our candidates for coming tonight and interviewing for our endorsement